Well, happy Monday to you. I am Jen Yates, and you are locked on to LRS102.com, the Walrus Louisville's Rock Stream. I'm so excited to have you a part of today's broadcast with us because I'm always pumped. I have Tom Browning in the studio today. How are you doing, Tom?
I'm just fine. Thanks a lot for asking me here, buddy.
Absolutely, man. I've been a fan for a long time. Of course, I moved to Louisville in 1999, so I was a late bloomer getting here. Didn't know anything about the Louisville music scene, but had been playing music for a long time and was trying to find my way through bands and people. And man, I can't remember all the places that I caught your band, but the Merry Pranksters have been like the longest running band in Louisville, I feel like. You've got to be up there in the numbers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe in the nation.
Yeah,
as
kidding,
far as
right?
Sunday night gigs go.
Oh, I guarantee it. But I used to catch you, I can't even remember everywhere, but, Dutch's, Gerstl's, Time and Space there for a hot minute, the Tap Room for a long time. Where else were you all like? I mean, you were everywhere. Molly Malone's, maybe?
Yeah, Giacomo's, Cherokee Pub.
Everywhere, basically. And if you've been in Louisville, Kentucky, and you don't know who the Merry Pranksters are, something is wrong.
I pity the fool.
I pity the fool. So do your research.
Do your research.
Yeah. So, Tom, I want to educate our listeners. I'm hoping that they all know who you are. But just in case they don't, I want you to tell them a little bit about yourself. How did you get your start in music?
My mom taught me how to play piano. And I started playing trumpet in school, and then baritone, and then cello, and then started going to U of L when I was at Ballard, and going to the prep department and taking music theory lessons, and then went to college and studied music.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've played you play almost everything.
Well,
sounds like it.
My degree is music theory and composition, so you had to learn every instrument, how it works.
Very cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, super rad. So you started with your mom. When was the first time you joined a band or started a band?
With my brother Matt, we had a little band, and I guess that was like in 67, 68, somewhere around there.
Yeah. And what style of music was it? Because you've been kind of all over the place with the musical style, too.
Yeah, we started out doing, that pop rock or something, and it was just us jamming around, and really it's easier to write songs than it was to learn them, so just write, So.
Well, I'm a big fan of writing songs. I don't know if you knew that, but most of the artists I try to get up in here, I love them so much because they are artists, you know what I mean? I call an artist someone who writes their own stuff. A musician can, is more of the cover band stuff. And there's great aspects of both. So we're going to talk a lot about that today. And I love, for me, I use my own writing as my own therapy because it's the cheapest therapy around. You know what I mean? And it's so easy to write closure for yourself or to write about something that's frustrating you in your everyday life or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? So
definitely.
I'm a big fan of the artistry of music. There's so many facets of the music business, you know what I mean? And I feel like to be a professional musician today, you have to be a hustler. You have to literally do everything.
It's always been that way. I got my business model from Beethoven, really.
Okay. Tell me more about that.
Well, he was the first guy to just ignore the aristocracy and the church and all that and have a manager stage his own concerts, collect the door, teach students. And I thought, well, that's a good idea.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Yeah, and I mean, all those composers had students, and I started teaching guitar,
Yeah. So when you, and you're still doing that, by the way. Yeah. So if you're looking for a guitar teacher, here's your man right here on the air.
Hit me up.
Tom Browning.
Yeah.
And where are you teaching out of these days?
I'm teaching at Mellow and Music and Guitar Emporium.
Oh, cool. I love both of those.
Yeah,
Shout out to, I love Jeff McAllister. I know he's over at Mellow.
Oh, yeah, Jeff. Yeah.
And I also love my girl, Melanie Dillman.
Melanie, yeah.
My trumpet player girl. Yeah, we've sat in many a theater orchestra pits together plenty of times.
Yeah,
actually,
great.
we used to live together for a hot second.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yes, we did, yeah. She had this groovy little apartment over off of Frankfort Avenue, and we used to frequent there quite often.
Yeah. Oh, it was at the end of the road, right?
Yeah, it's like off of either Bailey or one of those. It's behind the, if you're on Frankfort Avenue, behind the fire department.
Yes. I can't think of the name of the road right now, but is it, no.
Height, maybe?
No, but it's right near there. You're like 2 streets away.
It's actually over behind the Peter Doomsnell house. So it was a gorgeous little
It doesn't
area.
go all the way through.
Correct.
It stops at like the Quarry Cliff or something.
Yeah. So anyway, if people don't know who you are, they need to educate yourself. Where can they catch you playing around town right now currently?
We're every Sunday we play at the Melwood Tavern.
All right.
We're doing our Sunday night show there, and we play 9 to 1.
9 to 1.
Yeah.
That Melwood Tavern seems to be the new hippie hangout.
Oh yeah, they do. They've a long time ago they started calling our gig Sunday night gig church, and so they do an early service there. And a lot of times it's out of town bands.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, I'll have to come over and join you for something. Yeah.
Gotta.
So how did you go from playing in these bands to being a part of the Merry Pranksters?
I graduated with ultimately from Bellarmine. I studied with Don Murray and was playing a lot of jazz, and had a jazz band called the Fat Cats 4 with Pete Peterson and Riley White and Timmy Turner, and we played. We ultimately had every Sunday night gig, and I knew the guys, and I had played with other bands around town, and I would go in and sit in with them on Sunday nights, and eventually they just asked me to join up with them full time. Before that, I was doing jazz and then music contracting with the Platters or the Drifters or.
Man, I believe that's Bernard Purdy on drums, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And the Platters.
yeah.
Oh, he's one of my all-time favorite drummers.
And Charlie was the Drifters that we were playing with. Charlie was the guy that was running that. They had a lot of different drifter bands, Each member of the band would form a band around themselves so they could, all tour. They could have a bunch of drifter bands playing.
Oh, cool.
Every night. All coast to coast. That was a pretty good business model.
That is a big business model, yeah. So when you all started the Merry Pranksters, or you joined the Merry Pranksters, what was the idea behind that? Was it to be specifically a Grateful Dead band, or was that just the name influence?
Well, it started off with, it was McHenry, Miller, and Young. And Dave Young, whose brother Donald used to own this place that we're in right now.
Oh, wow.
Was called
Louisville
the
Studios.
Mad Hatter.
Yeah, the Mad Hatter.
It's
yeah,
funny,
it was a venue.
Dave had this lunchbox that was Billy Gibbons that had all his chords and pedals and stuff in it that he left behind. So Donald gave it to Dave, and it had Billy Gibbons' Beatles lunchbox or something.
That's hilarious. Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top.
Yes.
Who was just here, last night
yes,
at Bourbon and Beyond.
Right. So
yeah.
If you're listening, Billy, you can't get the lunchbox. He sold it. For I don't know what.
Oh, it's no telling.
But Donald also worked at, I can't think of the club, out in San Francisco, one of the early clubs where the Dead were playing with, and playing with Doors and everybody else, I guess. And he was the one that suggested that they use the name the Merry Pranksters because nobody was using it. He knew the guys or something like that. But now we're just called the Pranksters.
The Pranksters,
we shortened it down.
Yeah, well, I love that. Of course, I've seen so many gigs over the years. I'm always blown away by the musicianship, but it makes way more sense right now since I'm telling you that. It makes way more sense after you've told me your story about, studying jazz and classical music and all these different styles that you did. I feel like sometimes the Grateful Dead gets a little bit of slack for their playing.
Oh, yeah.
But their drummers, Kreutzmann and Mickey Hart are two of my all-time favorite drummers.
Oh, man, they play very well together,
Yeah.
But,
and to get to play as a duo drummer group, because the Grateful Dead, a lot of people don't know this, the Grateful Dead had 2 drum set players.
Right.
Yes.
2 drum set players. They started out with just one.
Right.
And then they wanted to get the Allman Brothers, Doobie Brothers kind of full sound. So that's when,
Yeah, so they adopted the model of having 2 drum set players. Now, that's very rare. I actually got to do that on New Year's Eve with another
cool.
drummer, Greg Roy.
Yeah.
I played with Magic Jack, and it was the most mind-blowing drum solo that I had captured of Wipeout to date.
Whoa!
We did a double drum solo of Wipeout, which is on my YouTube. Yeah. Yeah, everywhere I go, people ask me to play that one, so I try to do it as much as possible.
He's not Johnny Roy's son, is he?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, fine.
But I do want Mr. Roy up in here because I hear he is the godfather of drums.
Oh, yeah. Everybody studied with him.
Everybody who has come up in here who's been a drummer, it all goes back to him.
Yep.
Him and Marvin Maxwell.
Marvin and Johnny, yeah.
Yeah, and I love to call Marvin Maxwell. He's been like a father figure to me, but I love to call Marvin Maxwell the Hal Blaine of Louisville.
Oh, no doubt.
And the
no
Shuffle King, because he is.
Yep.
That dude can play the craziest double shuffle I've ever seen, the double-handed shuffle.
Oh, yeah.
And that's so incredibly hard for a drummer to achieve. So I love Marvin, and Marvin even told me it all goes back to Mr. Roy.
Yep.
You know, so I want to get him in here. I think he just turned like 90 years old or something.
Man.
Yeah, and he's still playing in his swing band or his big band
that
he's got going on.
Good deal.
Super cool. So let's keep going. You when you're with the Pranksters, what instruments do you play?
With them, it's just guitar. In other bands, I've done guitar and keyboards.
Cool.
There was a country band that I moved around from different chairs and was playing bass for a while with them, and then keyboards, and then guitar. So,
Cool. So you're literally like musician for hire for everything.
Had to be to pay the bills.
Yeah, I feel you. And you've been doing music full time most of your life?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, and you teach, which of course, we both bond over that because I have a fond love of teaching music.
Teaching music.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
How did you get into teaching music?
My friend Sid Whedon was teaching at Baldwin Piano and Organ Company, and he took off to move to Texas and turned over his business to me. Before that, I was just teaching through the Metropolitan Parks Departments in the schools and in the neighborhood where I grew up,
I love that. Yeah. And what's your favorite part of teaching? Do you have a curriculum that you go by, or have you created your own, or every student's different?
Every student's different, so it really goes with how they learn, how their brain works, what kind of music they like. I write it out, so I'll listen to what they're interested in, and then I'll write it out for them. We go over it, and because all the whatever kind of music it is, it has something in it that's going to teach them about the fundamentals, and we address those issues as they come up.
Yeah, I love that theory. Yeah. Very cool. I kind of started my own little curriculum of a hand warm-up and a kick drum warm-up on set for kids. I teach a lot of kids, but I also have a lot of adults.
Yeah.
And one thing that you'll love is this weekend, I'm about to go to Nashville. There's going to be a big premiere of a women drummers documentary film that I'm in that's about to hit all film festivals. They're trying to get it on Netflix. They're trying to get it in all theaters.
Oh, that's
and
great.
Basically, it features all these famous drummers, and not that I'm famous, but myself included.
Right.
I was lucky enough to be a part of it. They follow me around teaching my students. And they ask the question whether gender matters when you're playing drum set, because, typically it's considered a masculine instrument, percussion and drums. But, as we are starting to see now, we have the internet, we can get online, we can see all these other people drumming. There are women across the world that are amazing drummers.
Oh, man, Ruth Underwood played forever for Frank Zappa. She was almost one of the original members of the Mothers of Invention.
Yes.
It would take a few years. And she is a marimba or vibes player.
Yeah.
Man, I got to see her a couple times with him when they played in Frankfurt and when they played here. I think Captain Beefheart was playing with them, too. But
Very
man,
cool.
she, if you get the Zappa gig, that's probably the toughest.
Oh,
gig.
yeah, I would think, yeah.
And he writes stuff out, and she's sight reading it, and just unbelievable lines. 11 notes in the space of 7.
Yeah.
Polyrhythms and stuff. Crazy.
Yeah. So, and also, Viola Smith, a huge pioneer.
Oh.
She turns 107 years old this year, and she is still drumming. She drummed for Frank Sinatra back in the day.
Yeah, right.
Back, we were talking 40s and 50s when women were not supposed to be doing that. They were supposed to be at home.
It's absurd.
Yeah. So I called them my sheroes.
Yes.
And I'm going to Nashville this weekend. They're gonna premiere the documentary. I haven't seen it yet. They won't let us see it until they premiere it.
Right.
So there's gonna be a big old drummer convention, basically. BMI, ASCAP, they're all gonna be there. CSAC. As well as DrumWorks and all these the guys that started Drumeo, the online drum lessons. Jared Falk, as well as Drum Talk TV founder Dan Schneider is going to be there. So there's going to be all these cool people. You know, some of the cats you see at NAMM out in California or Nashville and all that stuff. So we're gonna literally have a great time this weekend doing that. You know what I mean?
Where in Nashville is it?
They're gonna premiere it at the Louisville Public Library, which is right downtown, and then we do like a screening and then a questionnaire Q&A session.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, there's a big after party where they've rented out like a bar where we're all going to go get to play together.
But not the Louisville Free Public.
No, this is in Nashville.
Nashville Free Public.
Yeah, Nashville Free Public Library. Right. Yeah. So I have a friend who built was on the board to build the Symphony Hall in Nashville, and she's been in control of everything that's going on this weekend. So they haven't really told me a whole lot. They just are like, you're just going to be blown away. Just show up, because we got you, and it's kind of like a red carpet type thing.
Cool.
Yeah, and I can't wait to meet all these drummers that I've been following across the country. In fact, you'll love this. Just yesterday, I come home to a huge package. It was Saturday, actually, but I didn't see it until Sunday. Huge package addressed to me from a lady named Dawn Richardson. Well, Dawn Richardson is the female drummer from San Francisco. She was in the Four Non Blondes, which have the big hit "What's Going On." That was Linda Perry fronting them. And then for a long time they didn't have a bass player, so they used Dave Navarro from Jane's Addiction.
Yeah.
So they played together for a long time, and then now she's gone on. Everybody kind of went on to their own projects like you do. She's now in a band with Jane Weedland of the Go-Go's. And, you know, she's done so many different projects over the years. My girl Julie Wolf out in Fantasy Studios uses her a lot, you know, as a session drummer. So I come home to a package from her, all these vinyls and all these drum books that she's written, and this hat that I'm wearing that says "Keep on Drumming," and a personalized handwritten letter for my birthday. So shout out Dawn Richardson.
That's sweet.
Thank you for my hat and
sweet.
everything. Yeah, she's super cool, man. She's been on this show before. I like to feature, you know, a lot of female drummers, which is really cool, as well as male drummers. But I feel like female drummers sometimes get overlooked. But it is the year of the female.
Amen.
Yeah, so we're taking over.
I've got 2 daughters, so I.
You rock and roll, man. Do they play music?
A little bit. They played in high school. Nicole plays a little guitar, and she played trumpet. Took lessons from Melanie.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Right on.
And then,
it's all full circle
Christine did clarinet, and that was at Oldham County, I think, middle and high school.
Yeah.
Maybe just middle school.
Are you in Jefferson County or are you in Oldham?
We're out in Oldham in Centerfield.
Okay, cool. Yeah, put me in, coach. That's what reminds me of Centerfield, the song by John Fogerty.
He played, was it last night?
It was Saturday night because I heard it loud and clear from my house.
His keyboard player came in and sat in with us when we
no, it was Friday night. Yeah, Friday night.
When we played, when we were doing the show at Gerstl's, his organ player came and sat in with us, played on Bob Ramsey's keyboard and stuff.
Cool. Shout out to Bob Ramsey. We love that dude. Yeah. Do you get to play with him often?
Every Sunday, it's Bob and R.D. Miller and Rico Thomas and Rick Ennis.
Oh, I love Rico. I love Rick. I love all those cats. Yeah. Shout out to all y'all. So let's talk about every Sunday night. People can catch you all at Melwood Tavern.
Yep.
And that's the Pranksters. How come you shortened the name?
It was just we got older and it's just too much weight to carry around. So,
so you're getting rid of that?
We had to lighten it up a bit. No, that's what everybody's always called us, the Pranksters.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten outside of Louisville and played?
I lived in Boston and played around there. And before that, I lived in the Caribbean in St. Croix.
Ooh. And what brought you to Louisville back from St. Croix? That sounds amazing.
Both of those places, after reading about how do you make a living in the music business, it's quite evident that you make it from buying property and real estate.
No kidding.
So if I wanted to do that, you take your money that you make playing music, you save it, and then you eventually buy real estate or some kind of property.
Invest it in property. Yeah, they say you can never go wrong in buying property.
No, and there's any musician who's made it has, like Frank Sinatra, for instance, his real estate was out in Vegas. The cat that played with Steely Dan and the Doobie Brothers keyboard, he bought a lot of houses and refurbished them in St. Louis. Paul McCartney bought a lot of music, which is property. Not besides owning a third of his music, I guess maybe he owns more of it now.
Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, it's always a pleasure to, get to talk to you. You've got all kinds of cool stories, and we're going to talk about them all day because we have 2 hours with you, which we love. And we're going to take a short break because we love to spin music. And I told you, since you're here, I think it's awesome because not only do I get to spin Grateful Dead music, but you're also, people probably don't even know, you're on this LRS homemade record, the very first one.
Very first one.
Yeah, the one I love to talk about so much. It looks like an older lady holding a pie.
Yep.
LRS 102 used to make these cool homemade vinyl records.
Yep.
And we would take local people around town and have them put a song on there. Now, did you get to pick the song or did they pick the song?
No, we did. We got it. And then you submitted it. And then out of all the submissions, they made their choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool to know the process. So I'm hoping, and I keep my fingers crossed, that we get to eventually bring these back because these were a hot button item.
They were great.
Everybody I tell that I work at LRS, they always say one thing to me. They say, "Oh, I have one of those homemade records," and then they try to give me their vinyl records. And I'm like, "Don't give it to me. I'll borrow it and I'll spin it on the air." But this one in particular happened to be the very first one that was ever made.
Yes.
Do we know what year that was? It was is the 70s, right?
Yes, it would have been 76 probably, 1976.
So in 1976, this record come out, and it is Jenny Hartman on the front holding what appears to be a pie, and on the back there's all kinds of the Juggernaut Jug Band.
Yeah, Juggernaut Jug Band.
Yeah, the Juggernaut Jug Band. I'm trying to get them on my show. Cool. They've got a song on here called "You Gotta Wait for That Chicken Pie to Cool." So maybe it's a chicken pie. I'm going to pretend it's a cherry pie because I am a huge fan of cherry pies.
Yeah, and I'm a vegetarian. My wife's a vegan, so
nice. Yeah,
we don't eat chicken.
Yeah, I hear you. So we'll pretend it's cherry instead,
yes,
right?
Sounds good.
All right, we're gonna spin this track. You're on it. It's called "Open Heart Surgery."
That's right.
Part 1. There's also a part 2.
Yep.
But this is Tom Browning and his track on the original LRS102.com record.
Yeah.
You're locked on to LRS 102, The Walrus. that is Open Heart Surgery. Tom Browning on part 1 and Jake Goldsby on part 2. Man, Tom, tell me a little bit about the recording process of that, because that is a cool track. It's definitely not what I expected from you.
It's John Goldsby instead of Jake Goldsby.
Oh, Desi, yeah. John, Jay. Yeah, I can't see these days. I'm in my 40s and my eyesight is going.
Yeah, I had to sell my eyes to pay a power bill, so.
Ding, ding, ding. I love
Ding,
that.
ding, ding.
Usually I have my little sound effects that do the ba-dum-chas, but I don't have them with me.
Oh, you don't
today.
have it queued up?
Yeah. I don't have it queued up today.
There you go. Right.
Yeah, my iPad just decided to crash and burn over the weekend, and it had all of my tempos for my whole sets, because I'm one of those weird drummers. I like to get a visual of a tempo marking before I start the song, because sometimes, if you, and I teach my kids this too when I'm in lessons, if you go outside and you run a marathon and then you come and you have to play a song that's like a slow ballad at 60 beats per minute,
that's going to be rough.
You have to control that internal energy.
Exactly.
Same thing works when you're tired. If you've got to buzz through like Proud Mary, which is rocking, or something in the 170 range up, and you're tired, you have to channel some kind of energy to get that like energy going.
As a vocalist, if you're singing, a lot of times I'll go to the chorus.
That's what I think of too. I always think of the chorus first and get that in my head, and then get the tempo around.
When the song gets to that, that's that's the right tempo.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And it affects you too if you're singing. You can't get enough air.
Yeah,
you're used to breathing in certain places and stuff like that.
I can see that. Yeah,
and if it's too fast or too slow, makes it difficult.
We were talking about that style of progressive jazz that we just heard. I'm a big progressive jazz fan. Growing up in high school marching band and concert band, my professor Tim Allen, he was huge into progressive jazz, so he made us study that style a lot, which I loved. But of course, I was always playing in side bands, garage bands, rock and roll for sure. I was birthed. My father was huge into Jimi Hendrix and The Who and Zeppelin and all those bands, so I kind of was birthed in that. But now my family on my dad's side, all the musical ones, were mostly bluegrass and gospel music.
Right.
And they were all string players except for my dad. He was the lone like rock and roll drummer. Basically,
wow.
Yeah, and I had a lot of drummers in the family that were in the army, and my aunt and a bunch of them marched like marimbas. That's back when you marched the xylophone.
Yep, you had to hold on to it.
Yeah, exactly. And you had a harness that would hold on to the actual xylophone while you were marching it, which was kind of crazy. Yeah, nowadays you don't see that. You see the marimbas and the vibes and the xylophones and the bells all sitting on the side of the pit.
It's actually better to do it that way.
Yeah. But what made you decide that you didn't want to keep doing progressive jazz?
You can't make a living doing that. It's not a type of music that is being played on the radio, and the majority of people are not schooled in it.
Right.
And you have to. And my teacher Don Murray taught me this too. You have to communicate with your audience.
Yeah.
And a job as a musician is to play, especially if you're working in a bar or something like that, is to play something that people are going to like. They're going to dance to. They're going to buy more beer.
Right. That's my theory too. Yeah.
And so you have to approach it like that. And also you have to realize that there's only 12 notes. Nobody owns them, and each piece of music has validity.
Yeah. I always say this to my students. Can you believe that everything that we listen to in Western music is made up of 12 notes?
Yep.
From the craziest Mozart piece that you can imagine to something as simple as a basic pop song. Yep. It's all made of the same notes. And there's only 12. Yep. There's just different octaves and different pitches of them and different instruments that do different
timbre,
ranges.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It blows my mind if you think of it like that. Even... if you've ever seen an orchestra or been a part of that kind of, just it's mind-blowing to think that only 12 notes make up everything we hear.
Yep, that's right.
Music-wise. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Do you ever study, like, the hertzes of things? Like, 432 hertz is supposed to be, like, the magic hertz, the vibrational range?
Well, I approach it with, of course, 440 being the standard for A.
Right.
And that wasn't the case until I think they settled onto that after Bach. But Bach's the one who, with a mathematician, figured out the well-tempered tuning system, which we do use now.
Yeah.
And it's not true tone. But it was a way before that. The black keys on the piano were split, or not piano. That wasn't around, but so you played a different part of the black key for a D flat, and a different part of the black key for C sharp. But Bach they were able to spread the difference between those two notes over the over the 8 octaves, and then they call that the well-tempered system, and they had the inharmonic notes. So now people will say a C sharp and D flat are the same note, but they're not really.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
crazy.
The tuning thing is very wild to me, and you could probably educate us on the theory stuff, because I'm theory, but not as theory in melody.
Rhythm theory.
Yeah, I'm rhythm theory all day. Growing up, though, I did play clarinet, bass clarinet, and bari sax.
Oh, it's good that you got other instruments in there.
Yeah, and I took piano lessons for a long time from
piano,
my church pianist.
Yep, very important.
So I feel like if you can understand piano, and that's what I tell my students, because I teach bells, like basic bells, entry level, all the time. I'm like, if you can understand these 12 notes right here, then you just move them up here. It's the same thing. It's just different. It's a higher octave or a lower octave if you go this way.
I took orchestration from Moritz Baumhard. They named a Baumhard Theater after him.
Yeah.
And he would always come in and he'd just run to the piano and hit on it really hard and go, the piano is a percussion instrument.
Yes, it is. It is. A lot of students don't know that, and I feel like a lot of kids don't know that. If you go into college, if you're studying percussion, you must read piano and keys. Yeah,
and you have to do juries every year and pass piano proficiency tests.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. My professor would make us come in, and then out of a hat, we would pull out a scale. And then he'd be like, okay, now play that scale.
4 octaves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy.
Or you'd have to do the arpeggios in it of all the diatonic chords.
Yeah, It's so cool. I love that you're so theory. I love that.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Rockin'.
Yeah.
I mean, jazz.
Jazz. Yeah. So anyway, we're here live with Tom Browning of the Pranksters. Are you in any other bands too?
No, not
at the
right
time.
Now.
Yeah.
I kind of retired to the Pranksters. I had been doing a whole bunch of things. I think I was in 8 different acts and doing, like I said, the musical contracting and all that. And I wanted to get into where I was just in one band.
Yeah,
so
I understand
it was great
that.
when they asked me to join up. It was, like I said, Chick McHenry and R.D. Miller and David Young were McHenry, Miller, and Young, and that's where the Sunday night gig really started with the 3 of them.
Yeah, and if you ever want to catch a great show on a Sunday night, go to church at the Melwood Tavern. Yeah.
We do.
It reminds me of the Troubadours of Divine Bliss. Do you know them?
Well, I think Rick played with djembe with them.
Yeah. Okay, so I love those 2 ladies. They are my spirit animals, I feel like,
No doubt.
They are just what I think, everybody should set their life standard by. They travel and play music. They bought property and started this whole creative woods place, As You Wish Woods, or the Way to the Heart Woods, where artists can go and just relax and chill and write and be creative and use their facilities and stuff like that. They're just super cool. I think they're somewhere up in New York right now playing. But every time I'm going through a low point in life, they show up, and there are just these magical beings that just,
sweet.
They are the definition of love, I feel like.
That's cool.
Anytime you're around them, they just want to they make me feel like I should up my personal game in being a better person. You know what I mean?
Who are the people in, I've forgotten the names.
Oh, the Troubadours of Divine Bliss.
Yeah.
And Amy and Renee are their names,
okay.
And they used to run something called Church on the Rocks every Sunday.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, at the Monkey Wrench.
Yes.
That's why I say every time you call it church, I'm like, I feel like it's my Troubadours too.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all need to get them up in there at Melwood Tavern.
That would be great.
Yes, it would. So let's also talk about, we were talking earlier a little bit about artistry.
Yeah.
You have written your own stuff, right? You put out your own records. Obviously, we just heard one on the LRS.
Right, and I had some solo albums out, and then the Pranksters put out a CD, and we have a Live at the Brown Theater CD that we put out.
Super cool.
And like I say, I've done a few solo albums, and then I have a couple that I've just never released,
Okay.
And
are you looking to release them in the future?
who knows? We'll see.
So when you write songs, and I love to ask artists these questions, when you write songs, where do you start? What are you influenced by first off?
It could be the way that the lyric sounds, the rhythm of it.
Yeah.
And my teacher taught me how to write music from just a rhythm line.
Yeah.
So if it's got an accent, it'll be a greater leap in pitch. If it's a steady beat, that would just follow scale-wise, either up and down.
Fascinating.
So you can attach pitches to the rhythm and come up with different ideas for a melody that way.
I love that.
Sometimes
idea.
you'll just hear a melody.
Yeah.
Other times it'll be a chord progression, so I never can really tell. I don't even know what style it's going to be necessarily.
Yeah, I always feel like songs are our babies because they grow and they change. By the time you get to the end of one to release it, it could be something totally different than what you started with.
Yeah,
the
but
idea.
you know it's right. When the change comes, each of the different changes, you go, okay, that's definitely the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. And do you follow a certain format when you're writing, as into, like intro, verse, chorus, the typical A-B kind of format?
Eventually, but a lot of times what I think's the intro might end up being the chorus.
Yeah.
Or I might pull the intro from the last 4 or 5 bars of the tune or something, that you never know too. So with me, and the verses, the lyrics don't always come out in order. The stanzas might be, it's not making any sense, and I realize that the last stanza is really the second stanza.
Yeah.
And the first stanza is the third one.
Yeah.
So you never can tell.
Yeah. It's I love writing music because we can put things into songs that we couldn't normally put into our real life every day. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Literally, it's open for interpretation.
Yep.
As one, so you can write as obscure as you want, you can write as blunt as you want.
Yep.
And I always use this reference, but Bob Marley can shoot a sheriff in a song.
Yep.
And it's cool. We are with him all the way. You know what I mean? The Dixie Chicks can put Earl in the trunk and put him in the river. And we're with them all the way. You know what I mean?
That Marley thing is interesting because he goes, he qualifies that with, but I did not shoot the deputy.
I know,
So
which is kind of
makes
fun.
you think,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wonder what was the influence behind that song.
Well, and I also think it's symbolic too. A lot of times you symbolize things. So I'm not sure what he's saying when he said I shot the sheriff. It could have been that he got away from him.
Yeah.
Yeah. You never know, but you always want to veil it a little bit when you're writing.
Yeah, I like the mystery of writing.
Yep.
I always I feel like today's stuff is way too blunt. They'll just name drop and say the dirtiest things ever, which is fine. I like a little dirty in my music, but at the same time, I like a little mystery too.
Freedom of speech, though.
Yeah,
There
exactly. Yes, and that's why I love music so much. Is literally you can write anything. So when I set out to write, I never ever set out to be like, I want everybody to listen to my music. I was writing for myself. I didn't care whether the public liked it or not.
No, you have to write for yourself.
Yeah, that's how I feel. And I also feel like I pull from, it could be anything. In my everyday life. It could be, I walk out here and see some random person on the street and they're dressed a certain way and I might go, ooh, red boots might make a great song or something like that. Something as simple as that.
Yeah.
Or it could be something as elaborate as something I've personally gone through in my life and I just wanted to write about it to get it out.
Sure.
So I feel like everybody pulls influence from different places. And when we listen to Layla, you're all like, who's Layla? Unless you've done the research, you don't know.
You don't know.
I think Layla was actually George Harrison's wife.
Yes.
From what I understand, yeah. And there was some kind of like triangle going on there.
I think he Clapton fell in love with her, and then she fell out of love with George, and in love with Clapton, and eventually they separated.
Yeah, and Clapton's been known to date some pretty hot chickies.
He was married to some girl that from Ohio. I don't know if they're still married, but I remember someone telling me that because he was related in the family, that he'd see Clapton at a family reunion every once in a while.
He dated Sheryl Crow there for a little while because supposedly she wrote My Favorite Mistake about him.
Makes sense.
It does make sense. It's so funny how you can just write a song about. Have you ever written a song about an ex or about a girlfriend? Or a lot of times our songs are about love. I feel like 80 to 85% are about either hating the person or loving the person, or
I wrote on one of my albums an instrumental for my wife, and it's called Annette, named after her.
Oh, I love that.
And then most of the time, a lot of times I create characters and put them into situations, write about them,
Yeah.
But yeah, most of the all of the love stuff really has been written for my wife, Annette.
I love that. Very sweet. Oh, I have a hard time writing as a character. Now I can play a character.
Yes.
I can play a character when I'm voicing lyrics and stuff. I feel like I do that because I'm more shy to do lyrics I know it doesn't seem like that because I'm pretty aggressive, but at the same time, when I'm writing, I feel like you're so vulnerable.
Yep.
And when you're writing your own stuff, you're especially vulnerable.
Yep, you are.
And I've heard lead singers say this too. When they're on stage and they're singing lyrics to a huge crowd, they feel like they're completely exposed and vulnerable to that person because you're putting your heart on the line for the most part if you're doing original material.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a hard time with the lyric stuff because that's not my forte. But over the years, as I've grown and been collaborating with great vocalists, they always tell me to do my own stuff, So I've just started doing that. But I feel like if I pretend in my head that I'm a certain character, then I can do the voices
that might help
so much easier.
Voices. And also the way that your subconscious works, which is what does the composing, your subconscious isn't interested in the way that language flows on a piece of paper.
Right.
So, you'd be going really good with your lyrics, and all of a sudden you just clam up, nothing. And it's just because you're trying to force it. You're trying to force it into writing the way that you read.
Yeah. Which is totally different.
Well, you can get a sheet of paper and just start writing in a circle or writing the words that you are hearing for the lyrics and write them all over the place and draw circles around them and connect them and do it in a totally different way and try not to just write it out like it's going to look pretty in a poetry book.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I will, let's just say I'm in bed, I'm dreaming about something, I wake up, and I always like to write stuff down because I'm not one to remember anything, especially a dream. I have to write things down immediately.
Yeah.
So I will get up and all of a sudden I'll go to my laptop and I'll just start writing. And it's just left and right. Like I could write pages and pages and pages of stuff. Then I'll go back to bed and wake up the next morning and I think I wrote something down last night. And then I'll read it and be like, holy crap, where did that come from?
That's it, writing a whole lot of stuff and stream of consciousness. You can come up with little bits and pieces, and then your unconscious is going to respond. Your subconscious will respond to them.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm such an editor that I'm just an editor by nature, whether it be video or audio or writing or whatever. I always edit everything.
Yep.
So when I go back and look at it, then that's when I'm like, oh, that little line right there, those little 4 words or something, that's what I want. And then I'll take that and start a whole song about it. Everybody does it differently.
Yeah, and you go back to Beethoven. We have his notebooks and were able to study them.
Yeah.
Because he was going deaf, he carried notebooks around with him and conversed or wrote down stuff for people or had them write stuff down. And he also wrote his musical ideas and stuff like that. So you can see how, for him, music was, he was like a carpenter building something or building a table or, he would put things together and try them, and that didn't work, and so he'd try this and try that. Whereas Mozart, it was just, it all came out all at once.
Yeah.
He'd write the score at the very end, just because the publisher wanted it, because he'd write out the individual parts to the score.
Yeah.
And when you think of the massive works like concertos and stuff like that, him having all that in his head all at once.
It's amazing.
Unbelievable. But Beethoven was a big struggle for him.
Yeah. Isn't that weird how it works when you're an artist?
Yeah.
Artist?
You never know.
Yeah. I also want to talk about the tortured artist. Have you ever been in that position? You're married, so you must be like, you got a lot of love to you, obviously.
Yeah. Anything that interferes with the music, you want to avoid. So the thing with the tortured artist, it's best just to not create that in the first place.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great ding, ding, ding,
Ding, ding.
Take notes from Tom Browning right now.
You got to be responsible for what you're creating.
Yes, I agree that.
In your
I
head.
agree.
And so people don't take offense at stuff. The people that are saying something that you're getting upset about, they're creating that, but they're creating that from their from what they're experiencing in their life. It really has nothing to do with you or me, you know.
I always think back out, and I love to use these references that, you know, when we listen to a lot of these female artists, and I feel like it came out really in the 80s and the 90s into the punk era. You know, there were a lot of people like Joan Jett, who, by the way, was just here at Bourbon Beyond.
Yes, right.
You know, she's writing songs about she didn't give a damn about her bad reputation, you know. And I hate myself for loving you and stuff like that. You know, we had that punk angst.
That's honest.
Female. Yeah, very,
you know what I mean?
very honest, yes. Alanis Morissette, when she dropped her Jagged Little Pill record, she was very angry. You can hear the anger in her voice. I feel like I was birthed kind of out of that, the female angst, and it feels like to me that when we hear those as public people, that we're all for that, like, angry female getting that stuff out through their music. You know,
there's a long history. Susan Rigler has a group that, and we were in band together at Ballard High School. She's a great trumpet player. And I think she still writes for Courier. I'm not sure, she's food editor or something. But she's got a thing called Ars Femina. They research the classical music and stuff that women have written from, you know, hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, that's amazing. You should hook me up with her. I'd love to talk to her.
Yeah, she have a thing or two to say. She's great.
Yeah. So as you grew up, you come out of a magical time period of music. The 60s, the 70s. I consider that the most magical time period of music. There's so many. I mean, we could go back for centuries.
Oh, yeah. We could look at different decades and see what the post-World War II bands were. They got smaller and became smaller on jazz ensembles instead of the big bands, you know.
Right.
Big band era.
I feel like they got smaller because people couldn't pay them as much.
That, too, and just also with the development of the drum set, there was an admiral in New Orleans that shut down the French Quarter, and all those big bands. There was a bass drummer and a snare drummer and a cymbal player, and one guy got the idea. Well, I'll play the bass drum with my foot, and because he wanted to make money. You know, the tortured artist usually is the one that needs to pay their bills.
True story.
So the
ding, 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 ding. More. He's Tom Browning dropping all kinds of knowledge today.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you had so you got the Dixieland Jazz Band. You got the piano and then three horns and a drummer, or you had a banjo and a trombone player, or a banjo and a bass player. Well, the upright bass wouldn't have worked in that.
I love banjo and trombone together. That sounds really interesting. That sounds. We had Todd Hildreth up in here last week.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Yeah. And we had this whole discussion on how we love to like mash instruments that do not sound like they would mash together well.
Yeah.
And those are two that I feel like should always be mashed.
Yeah, and you'd have to do in that time period for them to work. You know, of course, Scott Joplin had his gig, you know, playing in the bar or the salon. And but if you were, you know, a lot of those cats moved up to Chicago, to get work.
Here's a fun fact about me. You'll love this. I have a second cousin who was a bouncer for Muddy Waters.
Whoa!
Yeah, in Southside Chicago. Wow. His name was Chuck Yates. He was a big old dude, too. I mean, a big old dude.
Yeah.
The Yateses are known to be short and stocky, but he was actually one of the tall Yateses.
There you go.
But yeah, he pretty much was a bouncer for Muddy Waters most of his career.
Yeah.
You know, until his death. And Chuck actually passed away when I was a kid. So, you know, he was around for a while. But I remember hearing all the stories about, you know, him hanging out in the basement and, you know, all these people who would come through there and stuff like that.
Was it Chess Records or...
It probably was Chess Records.
Called Cadillac Man that explores that. That whole story.
Yeah, Chess Records, very famous, obviously. Yeah, but yeah, you know, I don't know. Do you play the blues a lot? Everybody's got to play the blues at some point. I feel like as a musician.
I just I like all different styles. Just being trained in all of them, and I enjoy playing them all. You know, so. When I'm improvising, I might throw a jazz lick and then a blues lick together, and you know.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah, that sounds fascinating. I mean, it all kind of crosses over at some point.
I think it does. Yeah.
I mean, there's even hip hop artists today that have jazz bands behind them.
Oh yeah.
You know, obviously we're seeing in the country music scene where lots of, you know, now they've got hand claps electronically and all kinds of weird stuff going on.
Tractor rap.
Tractor rap. I love that. You know what I heard it called the other day? Bro country.
Bro country.
Bro country. And then I saw one of my friends, shout out to Mindy Frolic, who went to the Kick Down Festival down there on the Turner, on the Ohio.
Yeah.
She had a shirt on yesterday that said no, what was it? No pop country bullshit, please. That's what it said. Ding, ding. I'll put money in the tip jar for cussing.
There you go.
Yeah. But I was like, I need that shirt. I love that shirt.
That's great.
Yeah, but it does seem like country music has kind of taken this weird twist lately, you know what I mean, to try to be more popular than what it already is.
Well, when I started studying songwriters and trying to figure out that craft, Merle Haggard, and Johnny Cash, those were guys that I just thought were phenomenal.
Oh, man.
Phenomenal.
Well, they were.
writers.
Yeah, they were. Johnny Cash I like to use, too, when we're talking about artistry. He can shoot a man in Reno just to watch him die.
Yeah.
And we all sing that line. We're all happy to sing that line.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
There you go.
If I shoot somebody off of my music, y'all best not be pissy with me.
Yeah. Stop this political correctness.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the fun of, writing music. You don't like somebody, kill them off in the song.
Yeah.
You can't do it in real life,
Nope.
but you can sure
Not a
do it in
good
the
idea.
song. Yeah. And we could name a million. That's why I was working in country radio when the Dixie Chicks,
Yeah.
the whole fiasco. Well, me and the Dixie Chicks go in circles in radio for some reason, and I love them. So I'm a huge
phenomenal.
fan.
Yeah,
yes,
and,
they are.
I thought that was just a bunch of crap when
Same.
all that stuff
Yeah.
went down. Yeah.
Well, I was working in radio when it went down. First off, I was working in radio when their first CD dropped, and I loved them, and I would spin their first, second CD. Then Goodbye Earl came out, and of course everybody in radio was in upheaval about, oh my God, they've killed this dude off, and I was like, did you listen to Johnny Cash's Folsom Prison or any of these songs where they killed people off that came way before them?
Well,
nobody was paying attention.
Americans are funny, they're all up in arms about all these different rights that we have, and then when you start exercising them, they get all pissed off.
Yeah, I love that. More wisdom from Tom Browning.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I was like, well, that's dumb. I thought it was dumb that everybody was in upheaval about it. This is before all the crazy.
Yeah.
And the program directors were like, maybe we shouldn't spin them. Well, I was spinning them even more because of that. I didn't care. I was like 3 times an hour. You're getting Dixie Chicks on my show, And then the whole fiasco happened overseas, which I was like, that's the craziest thing ever, because for country music, where it was at the time, they were the best players on their instruments.
Oh, no doubt.
And Natalie Maines' dad, he is one of the most famous pedal steel players in all the country.
Yeah.
And I mean, you talk about virtuosos in their instruments. Those two girls on violin
they
and
could
everything.
play.
Oh man, banjo. I mean, they were sick.
They
so I was
can
like,
play, I should
that
say.
was real country music and almost a tad of that Appalachian bluegrass mixed in with it.
Yep.
So I didn't understand why everybody was in an upheaval. Meanwhile, they're listening to Toby Keith, who was horrible on vocals and out of key and all this other stuff. And I just never understood that. But then I went back. I got out of radio and then went back into radio when they released their big Not Ready to Make Nice, which was their comeback from that.
Cool.
But I was in rock radio, and we were spinning it on rock radio because country wouldn't spin their stuff.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
And
good
then I
idea.
just read a couple of days ago that they're releasing their next album. They've gone on like either a 13-year hiatus or something, but Natalie Maines just got divorced, and they wrote a song, an album called Gaslighter that's about to drop, and they're going to do a whole 2020 tour.
Good for them.
Yeah, which I saw them here on their tour in 2016 with Elle King, and they blew me away. I mean, they were just amazing, you know what I mean? And, I think they're true artists no matter what. A true artist says what they think, and that's all she was doing. So
they're doing it.
Yeah, so welcome back, Dixie Chicks. We love them. Yeah. So, and back to Merle Haggard. I always credit Merle Haggard with teaching me how to play sextuplets on drums, 16th note triplets, because in that song, I think I'll Just Stay Here and Drink.
Yeah.
He goes, bring it down, and the drums do the digga 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 digga, and I'm like, oh, I want to do that when I was listening, because my parents and my grandparents listened to a lot of old country, outlaw country, as well as country and western country, the original country that was like very westerny, like Marty Robbins kind of stuff, and I always loved like Charlie Pride, some of those early, even into the 80s. I love Ronnie Millsap, I love that all those older kind of, and Dolly Parton's always been a true hero of mine.
It's funny how my parent, it was all classical music, you know. We had, in every Sunday, you had to dress up for Sunday supper, you know, and listen to classical music, and that's pretty much all I heard. And I had no interest in pop or anything like that at all until the Beatles came out, and all of a sudden it was like, whoa, what's this?
Yeah. It's funny how almost everybody I interview, it goes back to the Beatles. Yeah. They always go back to either they played in church growing up, or it always starts in the church, it seems like.
Yep.
And most everybody in, you know, coming from that 60s, 70s era, it was the Beatles for them. Do you have a favorite Beatle?
I like John Lennon.
Cool.
I like his stuff a lot, and I like Yoko Ono a lot.
Me too.
As a composer, she did work with John Cage, a lot of famous, really postmodern composers and stuff like that. When the Beatles were just playing 8 nights a week. Sorry, but in Hamburg, she was already a world class composer and musician. But it's just that people are not educated in that type of music, and they'll listen to it, go, you know, that's just a bunch of crap, you know. And I always tell them, well, if you write it out, you know, listen to it and take it off and write it out and see what she's doing. And if you can do that, then I'll value your opinion. If you can't, your opinion's not worth anything because it's not informed.
Right, exactly.
You know,
I agree
educated.
with you. No kidding. You know, music is so subjective. That's one thing. You could sit and argue with somebody until you're blue in the face over music. But also, it's the one thing that really brings us together, because even if we disagree on certain musical styles, we can probably find one band that we both like.
Or jam.
And
exactly.
Just make
music.
Exactly, which is my favorite. I'm a big jam band fander. Now, in the Pranksters, y'all jam quite a bit.
Oh,
right?
We do. We have a few set things. There might be a few licks here and there that have to be played because they're part of the song, you know?
Yeah.
But after that, the improvisation, I never know from night to night what I'm going to play as far as that goes.
I love that. Yeah. You know, okay, so my little story here is that I was playing with who I consider one of my musical soulmates, Beverly McClellan. She passed away on October of last year while we were in the middle of this record release with a project called Hillbilly Swagger. It was just the two of us. And she truly defined, she loved the magic of the moment. She would never write out a set list. I had no clue ever what we were doing. Yeah, most artists that would scare to death to get on a major stage and do that, but she was on the fly, and I actually loved it because we got some of the most magical things out of that, you know? I feel like when you're jamming, you're free to try things that you couldn't normally try on a daily basis. And that's why I love to jam, because it frees me up and I go, ooh, I want to try this pattern here. Oh, it didn't really work. Or, you know, I won't do that again. Or, oh, it worked and it was brilliant. I'm going to keep trying that here and there. And then eventually, I think it's Stuart Copeland of The Police who says, you know, if you're not pushing yourself to make mistakes, then you're not trying your hardest.
Some of the best music comes from mistakes.
Yes.
The best ideas.
Yes.
And Jamie Aebersold and Don Murray both, I think, said, if you make a mistake, repeat it, and then play it backwards.
Ah, I love that.
You know, so you can use it.
Oh, backwards. I'm like, that might be a mind, you know, F.
Retrograde.
Yeah, no kidding. Retrograde, right. It means it goes backwards.
There's prime, retrograde, inversion, and retrograde inversion are the four possibilities.
Oh, I love that. Man, you're like giving me a music lesson today.
You owe me $2 so far.
I understand. I will totally give you 2. I'll give you 10 just because.
In lieu of the tip jar.
You're right. Yeah, y'all can't see it here, but I'll educate you on this.
All right.
We have a swear jar. It's called Cussin' for Recalls. It's a mason jar, and it's full of money right now. And at the end, so since we're streaming live, we bypass FCC regulations.
Okay, cool.
We give them the middle finger, basically. And we're like, you can't tell us to play Taylor Swift 5 times a day. We're going to play whatever we want.
There you go.
So basically, if we cuss or play a song that has cuss words in it, then we donate money to the swear jar. And at the end of the month, we donate this to a charity that helps with Louisville's homelessness problem.
Cool.
So that we cuss for a good cause.
Yes.
You can't get mad at us for cussing on the show.
No.
So I can say shit and then put money in. Yeah, exactly.
Missed.
I'm a big fan of a cuss word every now and a blue moon. I just feel like it's, it's a great way to go outside and just get some stuff out. It's like music in a way. You just go outside and you scream that and you feel a little bit better about yourself.
There you go.
You get it out. I do want to remind everybody we've got LRS Fest that's coming up on Saturday, October 5th. LRS Fest is back. And we've got all kinds of great bands on that lineup. I'm just going off my head, but we have Anemic Royalty. These are locals. Anemic Royalty. We also have Smut. We also have SWP. We have Julius. We have Boombox Poets, Mojo Thunder, and then, of course, Nonpoint later on is a national band. They're going to be headlining that event. You can get tickets online right now. You're going to see these cool little LRS Fest posters with the Slash Walrus. It's Walrus as Slash from Guns N' Roses with the hair and the top hat and the guitar. And you can see those, but we've got Nonpoint, Royal Bliss, Afterlife, and Hyro the Hero as some of the major headliners. That's going to be at the Brown Foreman Amphitheater downtown. You want to get to that. Did you ever go to an LRS Fest back in the day?
I'm trying to think of if we even played some of them.
I bet you probably did. If you didn't, you should.
Sure did, yeah.
All the kids love those things.
Yeah, they
they're
cost
real,
$1
heavy.
or $2 to get in.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
No kidding. They're more like 20, 25 these days.
Yeah.
We got to keep up with the times. Inflation is crazy.
Oh, yeah. I hear you.
Well, Tom Browning, we are going to take a break real quick. I've got all kinds of cool stuff queued up, and I'm going to play one of my favorite Grateful Dead songs, which is A Friend of the Devil.
All right.
Stay tuned. You're locked on to LRS102.com, Jyneration Nation. All right, it's One Toke over the line. You're locked on to LRS102.com. I am Jen Yates. I am joined by Tom Browning of the Pranksters.
Hi there.
Hi. Yeah, I had to spin some of my favorite Grateful Dead stuff. And, I meant to tell you this. Of course, we heard A Friend of the Devil is a friend of mine. That's one of my all-time favorites by them. It's hard to have a favorite of the Grateful Dead. There's so many.
They reinterpret their songs all the time, too.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It blows my mind. And that's one thing I love about them. In fact, when I had I had a rock and roll history class in college that I loved dearly because I was always a huge fan of rock and roll. And, of course, what's the sound that they credit them with? It's the California rock sound. Basically, the Grateful Dead created.
San Francisco sound.
Yeah, the San Francisco sound. And there's a specific term for it that I can't think of it. But also, we compared and contrast their sound to, where the Beatles come from, Liverpool and stuff like that. And that is a completely different sound than, what the Grateful Dead gave us.
And then when the Beatles started out, they really were a 50s band. If you listen to their first album, that's the 50s sound. They were doing Buddy Holly and
and a lot of that old bluesy stuff.
Everly Brothers and all that. So but they just every album they kept changing, because they had a lot of their own. They were self-educated in music. A lot of those and the audio files, knew all these B-sides to all these 45s. So, in Liverpool, there were a lot of sailors that would buy records in New York and then sell them to the kids when they landed in Liverpool.
Right.
And so you'd go down there to buy records. Maybe you couldn't hear them on the BBC or they weren't popular, so they weren't ordering them, So you educated yourself,
Yeah.
And we all did that, too, when we were in high school with... because a lot of the music that we listened to was not on the radio.
Right,
and,
yeah.
I didn't even listen to the radio to get a lot of songs and stuff because the albums, Genesis was a cult band, when Peter Gabriel was in it and they first came out. And Fleetwood Mac was kind of a cult band, too.
Right, old blues band, man.
The English bands Caravan, Hatfield in the North, and there's a whole big poster of progressive rock bands from England that ties everything together. Crazy World of Arthur Brown. Carl Palmer was the drummer, and he ended up
a classic
hooking up with Keith Emerson and Greg Lake. Greg Lake from
Emerson, Lake and Palmer, right?
Well, yeah, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and Greg Lake played in King Crimson, and Keith Emerson was in a band called The Nice, and they used to play the same club that the Beatles played, the Star Club in Germany, which is now a kind of a tent club my wife is from over there, and we've gone over a few times, and I've visited Hamburg and looked at the place where the Beatles played.
Wow, that's so cool, man.
That was great.
Yeah, I bet. I was going to tell you, my favorite Beatle is not Ringo. I love Ringo, and I love all of his drumming stuff. But I am a huge fan of George Harrison. I always have been.
Great guitar player.
Man, I just loved his sense of humor. I'm a big fan of gnomes, and when I saw him sitting in that field of gnomes, I was like, man, that dude.
That house that he bought has got all kinds of interesting little things in it. Apparently in the architecture and stuff like that. So.
Well, not only that, but he was the sitar man. You know what I mean? I love that he went way outside of his box and was like, I'm going to go to the Middle East and study sitar. You know?
There's a book called All You Need Is Ears, and it's George Martin wrote it, and he talked about the difficulty in miking that for recording, what the different ways and things that they had to do to get a sound out of that. Put it on a Beatle record.
Wow, that's super rad. Yeah.
That's a great book.
Yeah, I bet. I'm going to have to go get that. I tell you what, another book, since we're talking all things Grateful Dead today and the Beatles, is Mickey Hart's The Magic of Drumming book. Changed my life once I read it. I mean, okay, first off, I'm a huge Mickey Hart and Kreutzmann fan. And is it Kreutzmann? I can never pronounce his name. The other drummer in the Grateful Dead. Kreutzmann. Yeah.
It's my guess.
Yeah, exactly. So there were two drummers in the Grateful Dead. Mickey Hart, I mean, he's just on a whole nother spiritual plane with drumming. He is what I call an anointed drummer. You know, when I saw him live, I saw him do his own thing up here at Headliners. I got to touch the beam, by the way. Now, I know that sounded kinky for people who probably don't know what the beam is.
That's the beam.
But the beam is this instrument that he created during the Grateful Dead times, and they would play like Time and Space and all that stuff, right?
Right.
And it's this big long piece of wood with these crazy thick strings on it, and he'll smack it and he'll bow on it, and it makes all these really trippy percussion sounds. I was close enough to get to like touch that thing and be like, cool. What is this, man? You know. But I read his book, The Magic of Drumming, and that Magic of Drumming book, he talks about rhythm. He talks about where foundational rhythm patterns come from. He also during his show he took sounds from like outer space. And he's worked hard to figure out like how vibrations work with brain waves and all kinds of just weird, interesting things that are completely outside of a normal percussionist's, realm of thinking. He's really great, and that book really goes into detail about rhythm.
There was a book, I can't remember the name of it, but Hitler must have studied it because they were talking about subsonic waves and how you can, when he would give a speech at Nuremberg, they would beam out subsonic waves, gets the crowd all riled up.
Really?
Jim Morrison was aware of that, but there was a whole lot of theory that came out about that in the 30s and stuff like that.
Yeah. There's a whole lot of talk too about supposedly it's kind of like a conspiracy theory right now. Which I'm not really big into conspiracy theories, but I love to like listen to them and be like, oh, I want to hear your side.
Most of the time the math doesn't work on them, but
exactly.
But they are cool.
Yeah. Well, this one talked about how they had actually discovered the cure for cancer, but it was through vibrations and not through medicine. And it was all about vibrations, sending vibrations, certain hertz through the body, could help heal it. And I do believe that there is something to that.
That's possible. And they do use, now in medicine, they do use sonic waves and stuff like that for certain procedures and stuff.
Yeah, because we can't see sound waves, but if we could, they'd be bouncing around everywhere.
Look, there's one.
Yeah, I know. And then when you have the carpet, it kind of catches it and deadens it, and that's why we put carpet, and that's why you're sitting in a booth to capture sound, right? And that's why we have the carpets in recording studios and stuff like that. They never want the 90-degree angles,
Nope. Bad idea.
Yeah, and of course, any musician who goes to set up to play a venue, if it's concrete, we're all like, uh-oh.
Or you've got glass behind you.
Glass,
every time, if you move your head, then all of a sudden you get feedback.
Right, yeah, exactly. So there's a lot to be said about music and the vibrations, and we were talking about Alison Cross earlier today. She's a music therapist, and technically as teachers, we are all music therapists, but there are certain ones that study it, and if you've ever had like the sound healing bowls done on you, have you ever had that?
Oh, I've seen them.
Oh, wow, I'm telling you, magical moment. I have a friend I call her Rev Ray. She's actually out in Tucson, right? Or I think she's out in Tucson right now. She's somewhere out in Arizona or Phoenix or some. She's somewhere floating out there.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's a master of the sound bowls, basically the meditation bowls, and she has all these crystal bowls, and they're all different sizes for different pitches. And of course, she'll do some sage in the air with the feather, and she'll say a prayer, and then she'll put you on a table and just lay there, and she'll go around those singing bowls like you would a top of a wine glass, and it produces a certain pitch, and then she'll set it on parts of your body. She set it on my stomach, and I immediately started crying. It was like a release of something. And she uses those for meditational purposes as well as healing purposes.
It's bringing in acupressure.
Basically, yes. And it's fascinating how it works. And after I left that session, I felt like a rejuvenated spirit. You know what I mean?
Well, Einstein said all we all are is slowed down vibrations of light and, and sound.
I could see that.
You slow it down, it turns into matter.
Yeah.
See, it does matter.
You're just dropping all kinds of knowledge today.
Oh, I'll pick that one back. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you of all people totally educated on knowledge of, all things music and theory.
Hey, I'm working on it. I'm going to try to do some studying today,
Yeah, what are you studying right now currently?
Actually, right now, Gnosticism.
Okay, educate us.
Early Christian writings before the Roman Empire took over the church.
Wow, love that. And what made you get into that?
Oh, I don't know. It's just you read this and you read that, and it's all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, I need to study that. So one of the good books is Elaine Pagels, or Pagels, and then Hans Jonas.
Yeah.
But it's. In the early Christian church, men and women were equal, and they didn't differentiate. Gender didn't matter,
right,
at all.
Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah. Well, this book here on women drummers.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to be in this book. It's called Women Drummers, A History from Rock and Jazz to Blues and Country.
Cool.
And it talks about all these very powerful female drummers, from Karen Carpenter to all the ones you mentioned.
She's
Viola Smith, up until current. And for some reason, they picked me for the cover of it. I don't know why.
Oh, that's a great pick.
With all my idols down here.
Yeah.
This book documents female drumming from prehistoric times till current.
Cool.
When drumming used to be a very feminine instrument because they believed it had some kind of connection with childbirth.
Yeah.
And women would sit around the campfires with their drums, and they would drum and chant and all this stuff. And of course, in every culture, you have drums. Well, it wasn't until about, I think it's like the 13th century or so, the church then bans female from playing drums in the Dark Ages. And from that point on, it was considered a masculine instrument.
Oh, and you couldn't have any instrument except the church organ. They banned all the secular instruments.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this book documents that whole process of women drummers from prehistoric times till current. You can get it on Amazon.com right now. It came out in 2014. And the writer Angela Smith is a friend of mine, and she's an awesome steel drummer down in Austin, Texas. And she pretty much documented one of the first books on women drum set players. Of course, we didn't have the drum set until about 1908.
Yeah, right there. Yeah.
When Ludwig patented the foot pedal. That's what gave us the drum set, right?
Exactly.
Because like you were educating people earlier, if you had a pedal, then one person could play a snare and a kick and a bass.
Right, and do the...
Prior to that, it was double drumming, which was, two-handed drumming where you had a bass over here and you had a snare here, and they would double drum like that.
So Elvin Jones had to do that once.
Really?
His pedal broke, and his wife was his road manager, tour manager also, and so she's in the middle of a song fixing his drum pedal, and he's just using the floor tom. Couldn't even tell.
Couldn't even tell.
Couldn't even tell.
That's wild. Well, Elvin Jones is a monster drummer.
Yeah.
You've named some of the best drummers I've that I've studied.
I don't know enough women drummers. I need to study.
Yeah. Well, I can educate you on that.
Well, and I'm gonna have to get a copy of that book.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they just came out with a a paperback.
Yeah.
And not the hardback, but the hardback's pretty expensive. It's like $50 or something. But at the same time, if you want to know anything about the evolution of female drumming, drumming, this is where you go. I mean, it goes basically, it talks about the church. It was the Middle Ages when the church silenced women's leadership roles with drumming, to spearheading the fight for women's right in the modern era, and it just accounts female drummers who basically bucked tradition and societal norms. When they were supposed to be at home and they were playing rock and roll and jazz and stuff
sadly,
like that.
a lot of them, as I'm studying the history of Gnosticism and its underground, when it had to go underground, the Cathars and the Knights Templar and all that, sadly they were hung or burned at the stake or tortured, and that's if they were being nice.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and this is why this documents this. I think, if I understand correctly, that this is the first book that's ever been written on women drum set players.
That's
There's
cool.
been a lot on percussionists that were women, but not specifically drum set.
Trap set.
If you want to know anything about the trap set, you can get that book, and it's going to talk about everybody from Karen Carpenter to Sheila E., Cindy Blackman, Santana, the two you mentioned. Alice DeBurr is in there, who was in Fanny, which was the first female rock band. She's been on the show, by the way. She's a friend of mine. Yeah,
okay, cool.
I'm a huge fan of hers, and she sends me the sweetest little notes sometimes, and says she's a big fan. And she used to work for one of the big record companies out in L.A., and they helped bring on the Go-Go's and the Bangles. And get all these 80s chick bands signed because they were the original ones doing it. Really,
I saw something. Maybe it was CBS Sunday morning show did a thing on her.
Probably.
Yeah.
There were two drummers in their band, Alice DeBurr and then Bree. I think her last name's Hamilton. Bree something. Went on to be their second drummer.
Who didn't some of them pan out and start their own bands?
Yes. They're gonna kill me because I cannot remember their names
Joan
right
Jett
now.
was
No, not Joan Jett. It is Joan. Oh, I'll have to look her name up.
Yeah.
She's on my Facebook anyway. Oh, it starts with an M. Oh, it's not coming to me, but I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah, they're sisters. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, right. And that was a Native American band too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there were two Native Americans in that band, and that's why they were semi-controversial back in the day because, you're talking about late 60s, early 70s. When Alice DeBurr was on this show, she specifically told me the coolest stories. Not only did she get to record at Apple Studios with Ringo's mics and stuff like that, but she went on to tour with the Stones and party with Keith Moon. She was talking about smoking hash with, the lead singer there of the Stones, Mick Jagger. She said Keith Moon even covered some of their songs. He was that big of a fan of theirs. Fanny.
Yeah, well, it's hard to keep up with him.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah,
drinking.
Yeah.
Woo.
I learned that Keith Moon died the week I was born, and Jimi Hendrix died on my birthday. But two classic people that I loved so much in music, really close to my birthday time, right? Last week was their anniversary. So, I grew up studying Hendrix, and of course I toured with Kelly Ritchie for a long time, so we played more Jimi Hendrix than I can even count.
I played once with her at a benefit for I can't remember his name. The guy that played harmonica for the
Mudcats.
Yeah, right.
Jim Rosen.
Yeah, Jim.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because the harp player from War was there, and he had this wonderful harmonica that hooked up electronically to a computer kind of thing. He could make any instrument.
Oh wow! When was this? What year?
Well, it was probably 6 months or less before Jim passed away. Yeah.
Yeah. So that'd probably been. Is that 90s?
Got to be late 90s.
Late 90s. Yeah.
Gotta be late 90s.
I only know of him. I did not get to Louisville.
Yeah, right.
I never got to meet Tim Krekel. Right. I never got to meet
Steve Ferguson.
Ferguson. I never got to meet him. I wish I had of.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Yeah, and then of course Jim Rosen seems like another big name around the city.
Yeah, we all hung out and got into mischief in the 80s and 90s on Bardstown Road.
Oh yeah. That's my jam is Bardstown Road. That's how I found who the Pranksters were.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that and hanging out at Gerstl's, of course. That's back when, this would have been late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, that was Gersel time.
Yeah. And I want to remind anybody listening that if you want to catch Tom Browning and the Pranksters, every Sunday night they jam out at Melwood Tavern. And what time did you say that was?
We play 9 to 1 a.m.
9 to 1 a.m. on Sunday, and that's your church. If you want to go to church, that's where you head.
That's what they call it.
Yeah. It's at the corner of Brownsboro Road and Melwood Avenue. I only know because I used to work right down the street there at Mom's Music.
There you go.
Yeah, so check that out because I'm a huge fan. And since we were talking about my favorite Beatle earlier, I'm going to spin one of my favorite Beatles, not Beatles track, but George Harrison in his solo career.
Yes.
One of the best videos, I think, too, when it first came out. I don't know if you paid attention to that, but it's like him with skeletons dancing.
Great.
Got my mind set on you.
All right, it's Steelers Wheel with Stuck in the Middle with You. You're locked on to Jyneration Nation. I am Jen Yates. I'm here on LRS102.com, the Walrus, Louisville's Rock Stream. I'm joined by the lovely Tom Browning of the Pranksters.
Thanks for having me, Jen.
Yeah, you were just saying that you were just learning that song,
Yeah,
right?
we've just worked that one up, and I've got to listen to those licks and cop them. I've been making up my own and kind of hitting near it, but there's a couple in there I want to grab and quote note for note.
Yeah, and by the way, that's a track that I feel like you can play at any venue for any crowd of people and they love it.
They get it. And you know what? That network show, Netflix show that was it was the theme song for it with Jane Fonda and.
And Lily Tomlin?
Yeah.
Gracie and Frankie, or Frankie Gracie.
That's the theme song for that.
I didn't know that, but I've seen that show, and I love both of those.
Oh,
I mean, when I was growing up, I was drooling over both of them.
Yeah.
Like Lily Tomlin was my jam because I love anybody who can make me laugh.
That album, Free to Be You and Me, that she put out.
Yeah,
that's great.
Well, and of course, The Incredible Shrinking Woman. Like that was one of my favorite movies of all time growing up. Man, what a great movie where they shrink Lily Tomlin.
Yeah.
She's down in the sink and can't get out.
Help me, I've fallen.
Yeah, and they're just throwing all kinds of stuff on top of her. Now what a funny movie. She is such a funny person.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah. So I was in love with her because she just made me laugh so much when I was growing up.
Laughing.
Gilda Radner, that whole crowd. I loved all those funny people.
Great.
And my dad was a huge fan of comedy, so we would.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't have been watching it, but we were watching George Carlin and Eddie Murphy's Raw and Richard Pryor's stand up where he's setting himself on fire with drugs and and all that Cheech and Chong when I was a kid.
I kept my kids away from violence. I didn't want them. I want them to be shocked by violence, not to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
But any of that other stuff, it's adults say that word. When you get to be adult, you can say it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And my parents didn't want me to see nudity, but I remember the first time I saw boobs, which was in Purple Rain when Apollonia jumps into Lake Manatucket.
There you go.
That's not Lake Manatucket. I talk about this often because I think it's funny. But
they didn't
they'd be
shoot
like,
those
"Close your
things
eyes."
in Minnesota.
Yeah, right. My parents would be like, "Close your eyes," and I would be in a refrigerator box, poking holes so I could see. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Anyway, so we were joined by the lovely Tom Browning of the Pranksters. You can catch him every Sunday night at Melwood Tavern here in Louisville, Kentucky. That's at the corner of Brownsboro Road and Melwood Avenue.
And this week will be a Friday night at Wick's on Baxter Avenue.
Oh, you'll be at Wick's this Friday?
And Saturday at Goodwood.
Oh, and Saturday, Goodwood.
Yes.
Goodwood is such a cool little venue.
Yeah, it is.
So is the other one that you just said.
Yeah, Wick's.
Wick's Pizza, yeah. They've got some great pizza. That's the one in the Highlands, right?
Right, yeah. Baxter and Highland Avenue.
Yeah. Do you guys seem to stick around the Highland area a lot?
There, and we've got a place out in Crestwood now called Third Turn. We're playing out there quite a bit. And Limestone Bay, which is down near Limekiln Lane and River Road. It's a private club, but there's a beer nose there. And they have entertainment there. It's great. It's an early gig too, 6 to 9. So.
Yeah, gotta love those early gigs.
I love it.
Yeah, because you're still playing at 1 a.m. I feel like I'm not even close, probably in your age, but I feel like, man, I'm in my 40s, and I'm tired of playing bars till 1 in the morning.
I guess you probably know about our hours before. We were like 11 to 3 for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just started, taking a nap. As I got older, I still do. I take a nap.
Mm-hmm.
So, but 9 to 1's great because a lot of times I'm at home when we would be starting our last set.
Yeah.
On the old
exactly.
days. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, and how long did you do that for? Till 3 a.m.?
Oh, up until let's see. At Time and Space, we were at 10 to 2.
Yeah.
And that was last year.
That's when I would catch you.
Yeah.
I caught you a lot before then,
Right,
but when you kept doing Time and Space.
And then before that, it was 10:30 to 2:30 or 11 to 3. We did that forever. And we were also at Long Shots Tavern for quite a while.
Right,
too.
I remember. Okay, so I go back to your Long Shots days.
Yeah.
With Phil, who owned
right.
that.
Good old
Yeah, and
Phil.
I used to play up there with a bunch of my girl bands
Oh,
over the
cool.
years, just off and on jam kind of stuff. And I loved Long Shots.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I
It
miss that.
was. Yeah, I miss those days too. Yeah, what's that cat doing?
Phil has got his lobster food truck.
Oh.
Long Shot Lobster or something like that.
Long Shot Lobster.
I
A
see him
lobster food truck.
Yeah,
I love
it's
Louisville.
Great, man. Yeah.
That's why we're so cool. We had a mac and cheese fest over this weekend too.
Cool.
It was like 50 different vendors from 50 different types of mac and cheeses that they brought.
That was my daughter, Christine. She's a mac and cheese head.
Yeah, and of course we had Bourbon and Beyond because LRS was out there covering it the whole time, which was rocking. And then I played Louisville Pride. I'm coming off of a high of an 11-piece band at Louisville Pride with the Queens of Funk and Soul, and we did all funk and soul R&B type music.
Oh man, was it recorded at all?
No. Oh, you mean the live video?
Yeah,
there's a little bit of live video online. I'm still waiting for everybody else to send me theirs because I had friends out there recording with professional
Good.
cameras.
That would be really
cool. We had
could
11
put out
piece.
a EP or something of
Oh
that
man, it'd be
performance.
super
That
cool.
would be
Yeah,
really good.
I had an all-star band. I just want to say shout out to my all-star band, Jimmy Brown
Yo.
on bass. Oh, I loved it. Dude, by the way, that was my first time getting to play as a drummer with Jimmy Brown.
Hey, he's tight, isn't he?
Oh, he is ridiculous. He's my soul brother. I mean, he just is so good. He's like, they said, you'll love him. He's like playing with butter.
Yep.
And I see what they mean now.
Yeah,
So anybody who gets to play with Jimmy Brown, honored, And not only Jimmy Brown, but I had Donna Bivens, who's an amazing lead guitar player. She goes back. She was out on tour with Sherry Edwards when she was here.
Yep.
And in a ton of different bands over the years. And then this young chick, Jessica Bullock, who's this classically trained pianist over in Indiana, was my keyboard player. And then we had 2 horn players. And then Levon Fisher Wilson is a big Broadway star from here that runs the Queens of Funk and Soul. And they had they all went to YPass. So shout out for our youth performing arts school here in Louisville, Kentucky, which is one of the tops.
Oh, it is.
In fact, I think it was just nominated like the best school in the country or something interesting.
Todd Parker, who used to teach the percussion ensemble, I think he told me once there were like 12 slots open, and a lot of times the YPass would get 6 of those.
Wow.
Of the whole country.
I bet.
All by auditioning and playing.
Yeah. That's pretty rad. And of course, we were just talking about Hannah Weedland, who went on, she was a local girl who went on to tour with Prince before he died.
Yep.
And they came back to Louisville and sold out 3 nights. You remember that?
Wow.
Yeah, 3 nights they sold out the Palace.
Did she play, the TV show Empire?
I have no idea.
I thought they had a brief
She was a
moment where
Louisville
she was
Leopards
playing,
percussionist because
well,
I know
she was
Dan
playing
Downs
drums,
had her.
and I thought maybe that she was in a scene where they were rehearsing some new music.
Very well could be. She's an amazing drummer. Watch
Great
out for
drummer.
her. Yeah, she's very young and she's out there touring and doing her thing. So represent Hannah Weedland from Louisville.
She sat in with us one night when we were playing at the Hideaway, and we have a long history of having people come in and sit in with us.
Right.
And I had mentioned before, maybe not on air, but John Fogerty's organ player sat in with us, Jason Isbell.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Tom Constantin.
Who's John Fogerty's keyboard player?
Mike something.
Mike Webb?
Could very well be.
I think it's Mike Webb.
Bob Ramsey is the go-to guy for that.
Yeah. Well,
Bob played with Leon Russell.
Right. Yeah. Bob played with Leon Russell. That's right. And also, by the way, if it's Mike Webb, me and Mike Webb have a long-term history, and he did tour as a keyboard player with John Fogerty for a while.
Played with him, yeah.
He played with Leanne Rhymes, and he played with me when I was on the Bobby Key set in Nashville.
There you go.
Yeah.
I bet
In
you
fact,
that's
I
him.
just saw him not too long ago down at the 5 Spot in Nashville. He's a big producer down there. He's worked with everybody.
Wow.
And I can't remember everybody on the list, but he's in a band called Poco. And they tour.
Poco.
Yeah, Poco, yeah.
The original one, it was
Yes.
when the bass player ended up joining the Eagles.
Right.
It's Eagles, not the Eagles. And I can't think of who probably a spinoff from that, the Byrds and all those groups that were starting the country rock scene.
And not only that, but me and Mike Webb are from the same little hometown of Adair County. We were both in the Adair County marching band, which we're
Kentucky.
from. Yeah, in Kentucky. It's down near South Central, down near Lake Cumberland.
Yeah.
Basically, you either follow Bardstown Road all the way there and cut a bunch of back roads, or you can take 65 to E-Town toward Hodgensville and go through Lincoln's birthplace and on down into Green and Adair.
Okay.
But we're from a place in Adair County that did not support the sports as much as they did the marching band.
Whoa!
So our marching band
That's cool.
has a long-standing tradition of being one of the best in the state.
Yeah.
Has won just as many state champions as any other band. And we weren't in it at the same time, but our families knew each other. In fact, Mike Webb tells me my dad, who played drums back in the day and still does, was one of the first drummers he ever saw drum.
Wow.
Yeah, and we met on stage playing for Bobby Keys. And he said, Jen, where are you from? And I said, South Central Kentucky. And he said, so am I. And he said, what county? I said, Adair County. He said, so am I. And I was like, wait, what's your name? And he said, Mike Webb. He produced Tim Krekel's last record, too.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Mike Webb's done some really cool stuff. I'll have to get him on the show.
Yeah, he's... so did your dad ever play with bands down there?
Yeah.
Like rock bands?
Yeah, my dad played with Johnny Pierce. He also played with a group called the Dawn Breakers that toured around. But yeah, the early formations of all the Exile Cats, they toured with a lot of the Exile Cats.
Yeah.
Club 68 was still around, and that's kind of my area. But yeah, no, he moved up here in the 70s and went and lived in Shively, but he stayed South Central.
Yeah.
And he played with a lot of bands down through there when I was growing up. Yeah. In fact, he put me on a kit when I was like 2 or 3 and gave me a bunch of drumsticks. So I don't have any memories in my head of not of a drum set not around me every night.
Yeah, I have no memories of not having an instrument in front of me.
Yeah, isn't that wild? In fact, my first memory ever is of music. I remember the song I heard, but I don't remember anything else about it. But I remember the music.
What's the first song you remember?
Oh, it was the Eagles.
Okay.
Yeah, because my dad was playing a lot of Eagles back then, and they were really just coming out and like breaking big time. I was born in 78, so 41.
Yeah.
I just turned 41 last week.
Happy
Thank
birthday.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, I remember the Eagles being played, and it was Lion Eyes, that song in particular.
Yeah.
And I remember being knee high, I couldn't see over the couch, and we were in a smoky house,
Sure.
and the kids were all in a certain area, and we weren't allowed to go where the adults were, but you could hear the music playing. And it was my dad's band.
Yeah.
And I remember the moms being there and all this stuff.
Sure.
But more than anything, I remember the music,
My first one that I remember, my mom used to sing me One-Eyed, One-Horn, Flying Purple People.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a great one. I love that song. I love all those weird, that style of the Halloween.
The Monster Mash.
Yeah, the Monster Mash and all those other ones. And I love it when Halloween rolls around because you can play all those. I mean, you can play them anytime, but
Sure.
they're just so fun.
They're
I was
still
always a
around,
big fan of Vincent Price movies and all that kind of spooky stuff, I like a little darkness with a little bit of everything.
It helps.
Yeah, so Tom, you've done so much stuff in Louisville, Kentucky. Is there anything that you want to tell our listeners that you think would be a great story that you want to share on air?
One time I got in trouble with Leslie West because I thought the buffet was for anybody and it was really just for him backstage.
That's hilarious.
Bo Diddley, I decided to ask Bo Diddley, could I play his guitar, I took a lot of nerve. I said, hey, Bo, can I play that guitar? And he just hands it to me, and here's this iconic guitar coming at me.
Yeah.
And went over everything the guitar did, and these different switches for different type of effects that were in it, and the fella that built it for him, and told me about how they converted an ambulance and a Cadillac Fleetwood DeVille, Fleetwood, into a touring car to put the instruments in and carry the band and travel around to different gigs and stuff like that. So I remember I had to call him up at the hotel downtown, and I called him Mr. Diddley, and he goes, "Call me Bo."
And you know what? I was going to tell you on the same story. My friend Jim Higdon was in here, and he brought me a vintage Bo Diddley record called Bo Diddley's a Gunslinger.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that record? And I said, young kids, Little Nas did not do it first. I was like, Bo Diddley, this is a record from 1962.
Oh, easily, yeah.
Yeah, and it's Bo Diddley in a country western outfit with a gun, and he's dropped the gun, or no, he's going for his gun, and his guitar is laying in the sand, or it's not sand, it's dirt.
Yeah.
But it's dirt from a barrel wrestling like country barn, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. A lot of that stuff is really kind of country. So I was like, he may have been the first dude to kind of try that, you know.
He was a sheriff too.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was the sheriff.
Well, maybe that's why he did the record. When did he become a sheriff?
Well,
do you know?
I think later on in his life or something. But
because this was '62. Because I was like, man, that record is really cool.
Yeah, they were always looking for ways to cross over.
Yeah, of course.
That was the big deal for a black artist to be able to cross over and get onto the white radio.
Yeah, exactly. And it goes back to the chess records and everything like that. One thing I did love about my rock and roll history class is that we compared and contrasted black lyrics, and then when the whites changed them over to the white lyrics,
right?
Because at that time period, you know, there was a lot of stuff going on in our country, so they were trying to PC up everything.
Well, and then the hippies kind of took the beatnik jazz lingo and brought it into the mainstream, you know.
Yeah, of course, yeah. By the way, you know, I have an acoustic duo here called the Kentucky Beatniks.
Oh,
and that's why we named it. Yeah, that's why we named it. We're just a duo, but we kind of we get a little bizarre sometimes, and we're a lot on the fly, a lot of jamming. It's just a guitar and drums. That's it. Yeah. And we strip it down. First off, we were like, we can make more money doing that because you got two people to pay.
Do you play bongos or do you play?
No, I play a set, but I also throw electronics in there, and I also throw percussion. So we do a little bit all across the board, and it depends on the venue. If it's a small venue, I'll probably play a hand drum, but usually I have a little cocktail kit.
Yeah, sure.
And I play that.
Yeah.
And then Nick Payne goes back and forth between piano and guitar.
Sure.
So he's a little bit of everything, acoustic and piano. So yeah, it's really cool.
Those cocktail kits, I remember thinking when I was a kid, I would get drum catalogs too. I wanted to look at all the instruments, and I used to think those were really cool, you know.
Man, they so are.
Traveling Light.
Yeah, Traveling Light. Well, Tom, it's been an honor to have you on LRS today.
Thank you very much, Jim.
I love everything you do. I love the Pranksters. I've been a huge fan. I hope to get to come sit in with you sometime and play some percussion or something like that. Jam out at church one night on Sunday night.
Yeah, you need to come down.
This is Tom Browning, awesome musician. You've been around doing a lot of different things. And tell everybody your upcoming gigs real quick.
We'll be at Wick's Pizza on Friday. And we will be at Goodwood on Saturday, and of course our Sunday night show, Melwood Tavern.
All right, so check them out, and as always, pleasure to have you up in the studio.
Thank you for inviting me.
I hope you come back anytime you got something you want to talk about. You just come right on up in here, just stop by and say hi to us.
I'll pop in.
Rock and roll, man. I'm going to leave them with some Grateful Dead, and it's a crossover. It's Bob Dylan with the Grateful Dead.
All right.
All Along the Watchtower. I am Jen Yates. Tune in tomorrow. I have Tom Boone with me. And as always, y'all have a great day and keep it groovy.